Hello, Cleveland, and welcome back to the Dogland Podcast. This is your Week 1 post-game edition of the podcast. I am your host, Jackson McCurry, and joining me is Anthony Jokey as we break down the Browns' season-opening loss, unfortunately, to the Kansas City Chiefs, 33-29. Anthony, how you doing over there, man?
For about, what would you say, the first 35 minutes of the game, you felt pretty good, and the momentum just shifted, and Kansas City turned into the machine that it is, and that was that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, that first half was unbelievable. The second half, it just started to spiral out of control. And like Tony Romo said, like the Patriots were for the last 20 years or so before Brady left for Tampa, they were the litmus test in the AFC. And now it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And you pretty much judge yourself and your football team based on how you perform against the kings of the conference. And the Kansas City Chiefs are indeed the kings of the conference. Overall, I say the Browns played well, just not well enough. And I think that's honestly where we'll start, Anthony, because like you said, the first 35 minutes or so, the Browns looked like they were the superior team offensively, defensively for the most part, and then things just started to spiral out of control. And it's just one of those things, Anthony, where you can play the perfect game, but any mistakes, even if they're the most minimal mistakes against a team like Kansas City, they will bite you, and they will bite you fast and furious, especially against this team.
Yeah, I mean, you played pretty much a perfect first half offensively. 4 possessions, 3 touchdowns on 3 of the 4. They almost had a miracle touchdown on that last play of the first half. You can't ask for anything better than that. They didn't turn the ball over. They ran the ball extremely well. Baker was accurate to many different receivers. Anthony Schwartz had himself a game in that first half. You could clearly tell that going into today that he was their sole focus on who they wanted to get the ball to, and he showed that he was capable of a little bit of everything. You hold Kansas City to a field goal on their first possession. They get a touchdown, and then you force them to punt. You can't ask for anything better in one half of football against the Kansas City Chiefs to be up 22-10 going into halftime. And unfortunately, after, you laughed at me, but the tweet at the end of the first half, they had a chance to double dip there, and with them getting the ball to the start of the second half, and they came right out of the second half and scored a touchdown. At that point, you're still up 22-17, and then it just like completely spiraled from there, unfortunately. So you can't turn the ball over 3 times against the Kansas City. They will make you pay. That's what they did today. The Browns were desperate for a turnover, but unfortunately they couldn't get any. So you can't do that against the Kansas City Chiefs, and in the end, that's what cost them the game, those 3 turnovers.
Yeah, without question. And like most post-game episodes, we will start talking off about Baker Mayfield. And you talked about the 3 turnovers. Anthony, let's talk about this one because it is indifferent right now. The opinion of this throw and this play towards the end of the game, the Browns were starting to move the ball down the field. Last drive of the game, I think they got it to about midfield at that point. They were at the 48. Baker, he's looking downfield. He started to roll to the left, and I want to say it was Bryant over on the sideline, and because it all just happens so fast, Baker he looks like he's going to throw it away because he's feeling the pressure. I don't even remember the defender that hit him.
Sorensen.
I think it was Sorensen. Baker throws it, and it's clear that he's trying to throw that ball out of the bounds. Yes, he could have taken the sack, because we still had a timeout left, and there was still over a minute left in the game. Who knows what would have happened? Baker tries to throw it out of bounds. Bryant's in the vicinity, and then Mike Hughes picks him off. It's ball game. I know everybody's indifferent on this. Me, I don't blame Baker for trying to get that ball out of bounds, trying to save that timeout, because who knows what would have happened at that point. I know you're on the other side of it, but just talk about the play and talk about how you think, and just talk about what you thought of Baker's performance today as a whole.
Yeah, well, you and I differ on the opinion on what he should have done at that point, but the fact is that one throw should make no. I'm trying to think of the right word. No indifference, I guess, on how he performed for the entire game. Like that throw should not define Baker's Mayfield, the game that he played today, because he played a tremendous game. He did a great job of finding many different receivers. We talked about that briefly. He gave this team every opportunity to win. It just happened. He had one interception, and it shouldn't define what he did today because he played really, really well. It should definitely not define any kind of contract extension talks, any of that nonsense. And Jack, that's going to be like the talking point all week long, right? It's going to be Baker choked in the fourth quarter by throwing the interception. That's going to be the talk all week long. It shouldn't be because of what he did the other 59 minutes of the football game today.
No, without question. And I mean, you're already seeing it. Like former Browns right tackle Mitchell Schwartz is saying, plays like that, why are the Browns hesitant? And he's saying that plays like that are why. And I don't think that is. We don't know why the Browns are hesitant to re-sign Baker Mayfield. Maybe Baker's agents are hesitant to sign an extension just because they know the cap's going to explode and they know they can get more money. I hate, because this is going to be the driving point nationally and locally, that throw, and it's going to be like hampered to death for the next 6 days until the Houston game. And luckily I'm on vacation after this. I will shut everything down. I'm not going to listen to any of these hot takes. I mean, I already dove onto Twitter, which I shouldn't have done after the game.
Lucky for you that you'll be away for a week.
Oh, I'm powering everything down as soon as we're done recording tonight. But yeah, I mean, Baker played a great game. Like, honestly, Anthony, this could be like maybe his second best game behind the Cincinnati game, just based up until that interception. He was accurate. He was poised, like everything. Like, he put the team on his back like he's done since he's gotten here, and just commanded that offense. And for the first 35 minutes or so, he was better than Patrick Mahomes. I can honestly say that I thought he outdueled Patrick Mahomes for the first half of this game. Obviously, the second half, things changed, and Mahomes turned into the god he's been for the last 3 or 4 years. But Baker proved he belongs right up there in the discussion among the top quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's going to be how this whole season is going to go, right? Every single throw of every single game is going to be under an extreme microscope because that contract extension is looming. Every throw is going to be criticized, every throw is going to be praised. Unfortunately, that's just how it's going to be. I know it's going to be a long year that way, especially with the Browns' aspirations and what they want to do this football season. So it's really unfortunate that that's how it's going to be this entire year.
Yeah, absolutely. And another turnover that really was a turning point of this game is was the Nick Chubb fumble. And it's rare for Nick Chubb to fumble. I can only remember a couple other times. The New England game back in 2019 was a significant one because he was going in for a long touchdown or a pretty long run. But this one, like, you could feel at that point, Anthony, and Chubb had a great game. And we'll talk about the running game as a whole because Hunt, even Schwartz and Landry got involved. Like, the running game as a whole was effective per usual. But the Chubb turnover was a really huge shifting point in this game, even before the interception, because I think the Browns were still leading at this point when Chubb fumbled, and then like Kansas City, like the momentum really shifted over to their side pretty quickly.
Yeah, the Browns were up 22-17 still when they fumbled, and they were able to hold them to a field goal at that point, and then the Browns went down and scored another touchdown, and then Mahomes made his ridiculous play. I mean, it's just that's why he got paid $500 million. I mean,
yes.
There's no defending it. I mean, you just can't explain that kind of throw. Tyreek Hill is unbelievable. That is one certainly dynamic connection that those two have. But yeah, I mean, the running game was effective all day, and it's very ironic, right? Because I don't know if you saw the one tweet I put out there about, I don't know if Kansas City can stop the run. It doesn't matter if Kansas City keeps scoring because they can't stop the run. And after that, the Browns came out. I want to say they threw it like 3 straight times and then went 3 and out. I don't know what happened to the run. I mean, at that point, you're still only down by 4, and I hate to question play calling, but when you're running the ball that effectively against a defense that was clearly tired, they clearly had no answer for what the Browns were doing on the ground. Jack, I don't know. I don't understand why they decided to get away from that so quickly, and unfortunately they went 3 and out, and that was pretty much it.
Well, they did that in the divisional round game too. I think we all kind of said, why didn't they run more? Because they were effective running the football that game as well. I mean, they only ran it 22 times compared to 37 throws in the divisional round, and they were averaging over 5 yards a carry in that game. And you think back to that game, they didn't use Hunt a lot, and they only ran Chubb 13 times in that game. They went away from the run, and they did it again today, like you mentioned in that one drive, and it's. I think, maybe sometimes it creeps into Stefanski's head, hey, we're down, we need to throw. But no, like, if you're running the ball and Kansas City's not stopping it, you want to kind of run the ball. Like, it helps the passing attack, and then the passing attack will help the run game. It's how this offense has worked the last 30 years or so, going all the way back to Mike Shanahan. I mean, yeah, it's fair to criticize Stefanski, and this is one of those situations, but I can also understand, hey, I'm down. I do this at Madden too. When I'm down, I feel like, what's the best way to do it? I'm going to throw, get the ball, to make a big play, and then go right back to the running game. Maybe that was something Stefanski tried to do. I'm sure he probably, going back to watch the tape, he'll be like, man, we should have just kept running the ball. This is what got us here. This is what was working. This is what we should have done. But can't go back on it now. And it's only week 1, so it's
not only that. Running the ball can help calm things down, and after that play that Mahomes made, that's when they came out for those with those 3 straight passes. I think that I don't know if they thought they had to match it at that point, but they were still leading at that time. And I think if you come out and run the football, things calm down a little bit. You get a first down or 2. The crowd kind of starts to calm down a little bit because they were electrified after that play, and they should have been. But I think if you come out, run the ball a little bit, things are a little less calm, and that pressure isn't on you. The pressure that Jamie Gillen felt when he fumbled that snap, I don't think that happens if you kind of run it and calm things down.
Yeah, without a doubt. Anthony, well, obviously, you know what? We'll go ahead and talk about it. Odell Beckham didn't play today, which wasn't a surprise if people pay attention to the OBR and Brad Stanenbrook, because he reported it Saturday that there was a chance Odell wasn't going to play. Then you've seen Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, others saying that it was going to be a game-time decision, essentially. Well, Beckham doesn't play, but, I mean, much like the second half of last year, the passing attack didn't skip a beat. I think Anthony Schwartz was the biggest surprise because, we didn't see much out of him in training camp and in the preseason, but the Browns obviously had a plan for him, and it was effective. 4 touches, 86 yards for Schwartz in his first NFL game. Landry, David Njoku had a monster performance today, really showing that he might be the future tight end of this team. The passing attack, we talked about Mayfield, but the receivers, the tight ends, and even the running backs all contributed in that passing attack, and it was very effective against the Kansas City defense that also was missing Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Clark.
Yeah, and on our side, you're missing OBJ, you're missing Delpit didn't play. At some point, hopefully these 2 teams can meet with full strength, because I would really love to see that battle. We've gotten 2 really good games. between these two teams in our recent history. So I'm really curious to see like what a full 100% battle would be between these two teams. But yeah, this passing attack didn't miss a beat. A lot, like I mentioned, a lot of or Baker got everybody involved. I kind of wondered like where was Higgins today. It seems like with the emergence of Schwartz, he's definitely one of the odd guys out at this point. Falling falling back on the depth chart a little bit. I think Peoples-Jones only had one catch today. It's certainly this offense is interesting because you can go into all 17 games this year, Jack, and use focus your game plan around a different player. Clearly today they wanted to focus their game plan around Schwartz, and as you go throughout the season, that's things that teams are going to have to watch on film. Next week, who knows? It could be Higgins, it could be Peoples-Jones, it could be OBJ. Like, once you start to build these things in this passing attack, it's only going to get better. And when you have the running game that the Browns have, it's only going to explode at some point. The passing attack was great today. Minus that interception, and minus that one drive where they came out on those three straight plays. They took a sack, and then the other two plays didn't really work out. So this passing attack, it's not going to miss a beat. There's certainly a lot of playmakers. Schwartz added a lot of speed to this offense, and I think if you get OBJ out there with him at the same time, you're really going to see that. So it's going to be a week-to-week thing that's going to continue to grow and build upon.
Yeah, I agree because, with OBJ going down, all eyes were on Donovan Peoples-Jones, and he only had one catch and one target. Higgins was out there, but he never got targeted. You talked about Schwartz's speed. We talked about that back in January. It was like that was something that was missing on this offense. So the fact that we get Schwartz, who could have been on the Olympic team this year, but chose to go play football because of the pandemic, he brings that Olympic class sprinting speed that Kansas City obviously has with Hardman and Hill. We were missing that. Now we have that. And then once you bring back Odell Beckham, there's two guys that bring you pure speed at the wide receiver position. And like you said, it could be something that next week, like you said, we're playing Houston. You might see more Donovan Peoples-Jones, more Rashard Higgins. But now that you added Schwartz into the mix and all the speed that he brings in the creative ways that they can get him the ball, this offense just became more explosive. And you look today, they had 3 or 4 plays of, I think, 40 yards or more. Schwartz had the big 44-yard catch, which, his hands have been were the issue coming out of Auburn. If he cleans that up and hauls that in, he probably takes that to the house for a touchdown. Njoku had a big play. Landry had a big play at the end of the first half. It counts as a 32-yard catch for him with the old hook and ladder to Mayfield. But, just so many explosive plays. Like Cleveland now, I think, matches up personnel-wise with Kansas City. And, if we meet back up in January for the playoffs, I think, and you think everybody's healthy, you could see a 40 or 50-point shootout between these two teams if everybody's healthy on both sides.
Yeah, and I don't want to misquote this stat. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I want to say Baker had one of the highest QBRs last year of throws over 30 yards, and you can see that was that was prevalent today. They had a lot of big plays, and he's really good at throwing the ball downfield. You're right. If Schwartz catches that cleanly, he's in the end zone. There's no doubt about that one. That play at the end of the first half, that was almost a stroke of brilliance. If they could have scored on that, that certainly would have been something special. I think there's a couple wrinkles on that play that you could use to maybe score on it next time. But this passing attack, it's just going to continue to build, and I have um, no worries that it's going to continue to grow, especially with a healthy OBJ, with getting some of these getting Schwartz as a rookie receiver more incorporated, Peoples Jones in the second year, Landry, getting Higgins involved eventually. I have no worry that at some point it's going to completely explode, and that doesn't even include the mentioning the tight ends in the passing game or the running backs. So there's so many different targets, and this passing game is really primed to take off at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. As we wrap things up on the offensive side, Anthony, in that first half, we've seen a lot of aggressiveness out of Kevin Stefanski, and I think it was perfect because you have to be aggressive going up against this team in Kansas City, especially at Arrowhead. Them going forward on fourth down on that opening drive, I think really said like, hey, we're coming in here. We're not afraid of you guys across the field. We're not afraid of this crowd, which obviously wasn't there in January. And they showed like we're confident in our offense that we're going to be able to convert this fourth down. And then they score the touchdown, and then a penalty happens on Kansas City side, and it puts the ball right at the 1 yard line. So they were aggressive again and going for two. I think they were 3 for 3 on fourth down conversions today. I think they were. I don't know if they.
No, technically they lost one on the Gillen fumble.
Okay. Well, that's not a fourth down. They weren't going. Okay. Well, then no, you're right. So okay. So they went 3 or 4, but I loved it. I love the aggressive play calling by Stefanski. I'm sure Van Pelt has a say in that as well, but I just love the aggressiveness. Like even with McLaughlin being okay, because I didn't have a problem with any of his kicks today, the fact that they were willing to go for it on fourth down, willing to go for it on two, just goes to show like this is the new era in the NFL where they're not going to settle for field goals anymore. They're going to be aggressive and go for touchdowns.
Yeah, the Browns averaged 8.2 yards per play. That's ridiculous.
It was like 10.1 in the first half. Somebody sent me a tweet. It was ridiculous.
It's crazy. But yeah, I love. I was watching the game with my dad, and he turned to me. He's like, I wonder who's more aggressive, Stefanski or Ryan Day. And we had a good talk about that because I think it's pretty close between the two about how these two coaches, really get after it. On fourth down, they are not afraid to go for it. Especially with some of the play calls, they got down at the goal line there. They just lined up in their goal line from the 1.5 yard line on a 2-point conversion, and went goal line offense and pushed them right in. So, the play calling, the decisions to go for it on fourth down were great. The problem is they were 3 for 4 on fourth down. They were 2 for 7 on third down. And that's really where, they got hampered a lot today. You got to be better than that, especially when Kansas City goes 9 of 13 on third down. You got to be better at converting those to not put yourself in those fourth down conversions. But when they do get into those fourth down situations, I love the no hesitation to go for it, especially when you're kind of in that no man's land of kicking a field goal or going for it. I'm all for it, especially when you have a kicker who's been on the injury report all week long. It's great that they went for it in that situation.
Yeah, without question. Let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball, and they played well in the first half, holding this Kansas City offense to 10 points. I mean, that was phenomenal work by Joe Woods' side of the football. Second half, obviously, it unraveled, but my biggest thing, Anthony, and I can't wait for Jake Burns to break it down with the all-22 because I think that will tell more of a tale. Here's my thing. I don't care what anybody's going to say about the way the defense performed. Schematically, and we'll get to that, there's not too many people in the NFL, if any, that can stop Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and especially Patrick Mahomes and some of the throws he makes. it's hard to stop that trio. And if they keep this up, which they have no signs of slowing down, this might be the greatest trio in NFL history just because they are just dominating defenses, and they've had the last 3 or 4 years, and it's just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, that's one incredible trio that they do have there. You really have to pick your poison of who you want to focus your attention on. Um, both those guys are so good at running routes, finding spots that are wide open, manipulating the coverages, and when Mahomes has an arm like he does, he can hit any receiver from anywhere. So it's really unfair going up against these three guys. You saw those two touchdown passes to Kelsey, that one particular play to Tyreek Hill. I mean, like we said, there's no defending that, and that's why he got paid $500 million to make those throws. Those two are obviously a large part of it. It seemed like there wasn't really much for them going on besides those two guys today. I think they're going to really miss Sammy Watkins this year. They lost a very key piece there, I think, and Hardman is going to have to step up. But those three guys together are so dynamic and really, Jack. There's just you could double both of those guys all game long, and they're still going to find ways to get open. It's just how good those two get after it, receiving wise.
Yeah, I mean the big touchdown to Tyreek Hill, it was him and John Johnson one-on-one. John Johnson, I think, lost the ball. I don't know if he lost it in the lights of the stadium or just what, but I mean, that's my only gripe is that if you have Tyreek Hill going deep like that, like, is there another corner or a safety out there that you can throw to help Johnson in that situation? I don't know if it would have made a difference because Tyreek Hill is just out of this world.
Ronnie Harrison.
We'll get to that. But I mean, yeah, it's just those two are just unbelievable. And it's like Kelsey today, like, God bless Malcolm Smith, obviously. Hopefully in due time that's J-OK covering the tight ends in that situation, but Malcolm Smith he showed that he's in his 30s, and it shows that he's been in the league for a long time because he was just missing it by a step against Kelsey today. And you've seen it on so many, like 3 or 4 plays where Malcolm Smith was just one step behind. And it's unfortunate, but go ahead.
Grant Delpit too.
Yeah, yep, Delpit as well. We'll get to him as well. But yeah, it's just hard to stop these guys. Anthony, we'll just go ahead and get to it. Like Joe Woods, like we've heard him talk like about the nickel package and the dime, and I've seen this pointed out as I was scrolling Twitter just a little bit through the game, even though I tend to not do that. I heard people saying like they were in the base. We saw a lot of Mack Wilson today. Mack Wilson does not need to see the football field. I'm sorry, dude. He still can't tackle. 3rd year in the league, and he came from Alabama, and it just baffles me that this dude does not know how to tackle as a linebacker. But I expected more, but I'm not panicking yet about this defense. A, because Kansas City's offense is godly, and B, we have 6 new starters. We have a lot of new pieces on that defensive side of the ball. I wasn't going to panic right away, but what do you think of Joe Woods, and do you think he is a good defensive coordinator, and do you think he can be a long-term defensive coordinator here for the Browns?
I honestly can't answer that yet, Jack. There's still so much new personnel that was added to this team that I can't give an answer. They're not 100% out there yet. You had Ronnie Harrison for like half a second today. You're missing Grant Delpit. It's certainly this defense is going to go through some growing pains, and next week if like Tyrod Taylor lights them up, yeah, then I'll start to get worried. But I honestly think that it's going to take some time, and I think they did a decent job enough, that kept them in the football game all day today, gave them a chance to go out there and win on that last drive. I don't know how much more you can ask from, like you mentioned, six new starters on defense, or six new starters on defense. Guys missing from injury. Them not really being able to personnel wise to do what they want to do. They can't run. That one nickel package that they talked about without having Delpit. Hopefully he can get back soon. JOK is a rookie. It's going to take him some time as well.
Absolutely.
You saw him. There's that one completion to Kelsey where Kelsey just completely ate him up on an inside move. There's certainly going to be growing pains there too. You saw the pass rush, right? Today, that was a tremendous, was great to see. Mahomes is so good that he could extend plays. His Mahomes' legs, I think, beat the Browns just as bad as his arm did today. Because when you let Mahomes extend plays, it really gets us, it really gets you into trouble. That's just one thing you can't do. And, if you're going to the way, Miles and Clowney were able to get upfield with those tackles, you have to have like some kind of other help, maybe like a linebacker spy or a safety spy or something, to be able to come up and, not let Mahomes extend those plays, because he can really hurt you when he does that. And he did that today. So I think once they get all their personnel out there that they want to, and they kind of slowly bring JOK into all this. What's nice, Jack, you really didn't hear Greg Newsome's name much today. They weren't going after him. So Denzel Ward had a few nice plays today. Greedy, you saw him out there a little bit, but this defense, it's still incomplete, and that's why I can't give a grade or a decision on Joe Woods yet. Now, if this is like week 6, week 7, week 8, and it's not coming together yet, then yeah, that's when I'll really start to get worried about this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that's so fair because, and you hit everything on the head. Like, this defense is so incomplete. Like, Grant Delbert wasn't out there. I really didn't expect him, if he was going to play, to not do much, because he's still, coming back from the Achilles injury. Did not expect him to be 100% just yet, because that injury, it takes time. You mentioned, well, we'll talk about Ronnie Harrison next, but you were missing 2 out of your top 3 safeties today. JOK, like you say, he's a rookie. He did get exposed plenty. I think he will slowly come along as a rookie and make an impact, but I think it's completely fair. You got to give this a few weeks, at least 4 or 5, 6. Halfway through the season, then you're going to really see how good this defense is, how good Joe Woods is at scheming it up and utilizing all this personnel, because there is a lot of talent on this defense. And the fact that they only gave up 33 to Kansas City, I think, was good enough, because it could have been much uglier. The fact that we only held them to 10 in the first half was amazing, especially. So, but yeah, we will see how this goes next week against Houston. If they're letting, like you said, Tyrod Taylor, Brandon Cooks, Danny Amendola, Nico Collins, if they're exposing this Browns defense, then the alarm might start to go off a little bit more in Cleveland for sure.
Yeah, you look at the schedule, right? So they got Houston, Chicago, Minnesota. I think they can handle those teams, but then you have the Chargers and you have the Cardinals back to back.
Absolutely.
Those are going to be very key tests for this defense and how much they can grow from week 1 to that point.
Yeah, I think Houston and Chicago for sure. Minnesota, they played well against Cincinnati today, obviously coming back and forth in overtime. They have Justin Jefferson, they have Adam Thielen, they have Chris Herndon, the tight end from the Jets, who they just traded for, and they got Dalvin Cook. So, that's a formidable offense. But yeah, you're facing, the schedule is going to get harder as the season goes along, especially after these next 2 weeks. You mentioned the defensive line. I thought they generated a lot of pressure today. Malik McDowell, like the second or third play of the game, had a big tackle for a loss. It was great to see him in there and early and causing a disruption. It's great to see him out on the football field. You saw glimpses of what Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney could bring together as a pass rushing duo. Myles getting a sack late in the game. Clowney had a big tackle for a loss and a big tackle on a Tyreek Hill reverse. Like, you've seen him being disruptive. Joe Jackson had a solid coverage sack at one point during the game, which was nice because I think that was at a point where Myles and Clowney were both on the sideline, and even Takk McKinley. So, like, the pass rush did their job. Myles obliterated Orlando Brown Jr. today. Like, the fact that Kansas City gave up some significant draft capital to get him, and he struggled, albeit against Myles Garrett, who's a top 3 defensive player in this league. But, we've seen what the pass rush can do. We'll see how they do next week and as the weeks go along. But you have to feel really good about the defensive line going into coming out of week 1.
Yeah, I feel great about it. I don't think anything could be. I don't know if you can understate anymore like the presence that Malik McDowell had in his first career pro game. Like, this is, he was his last game was in 2016. This was his first pro game today. First regular season game, obviously preseason, but he made such an impact on that defensive line. You can't help but be excited for a guy like him, especially with his story. But he made he had a presence out there. If he is able to pan out, it's just like one of the biggest steals or finds that you could ever have. There's certainly something there with him. The other Malik did a good job too. It was close all game long. Like I said, of Myles almost getting to the quarterback. He got there right at the end. You almost want like that one like strip play. The one that TJ Watt had today against Josh Allen. Like, we needed that from Myles today. He almost had it. Against Mahomes. He almost had it a few times, but that pass rush that they have with Myles and Clowney, and then McKinley and Joe Jackson even getting in there today, along with the defensive tackles. Like, the defensive line is really solid, and I think they can really go up against the better offensive lines of football and really be a force. So that's one thing about this defense, Jack, that you don't have to worry about is that pass rush. And I think that if you don't have a quarterback that is mobile like Mahomes, you'll certainly see the coverage improve, because those quarterbacks, i.e. like Ben Roethlisberger, who can't really run much anymore, those guys aren't going to be able to extend plays to get out of that pressure, like Mahomes did today.
Oh, absolutely. I think, just forcing turnovers, I think it's going to be a huge thing, especially when we're going up against the big teams, because, like, today, I mean, Kansas City just killing us. Like, they were able to hold on to the football, not force any turnovers, or not letting us force any turnovers. But, yeah, I mean, that's something big, and hopefully, the pass rush just continues to get better and better and makes things easier for the back seven, because like games like today, they obviously needed to create just a little more pressure and get to Mahomes quicker. And who knows, maybe things would have changed in the game. We brought it up a couple times, Anthony, the Ronnie Harrison incident. Now, this is one of the things that I hate the mainstream media for, because they only were telling one side of the tale when this incident happened. Ronnie Harrison gets forced over to the sideline, Kansas City sideline on a play. I think they were going after Tyreek. And he steps on a defender, which, I mean, I don't know if he was trying to step over him and he accidentally stepped on him. He still stepped on the defender. I don't know if they were like grabbing his foot then, but then one of the assistant coaches shoves Ronnie Harrison. Ronnie Harrison retaliates, and Nance and Romo immediately go to that. They only attack Ronnie Harrison for that incident alone. And, first, unsportsmanlike conduct gets called on Kansas City. Now, what Nance and Romo were even saying, and Gene Steratore, who's the CBS official that reviews all these penalties and everything, he says that, New York's probably communicating with the officials. This might get reversed. It does. Ronnie Harrison gets ejected. And that obviously threw a wrench in the Browns' defensive plans, like we just talked about. It hurt us, especially with Delpit already being out. My problem with this, Anthony, Ronnie Harrison got ejected. That was okay. He deserved it for stepping on the player, for shoving an assistant coach. My thing was, why didn't the assistant coach also get ejected? Because when he put his hands on Ronnie Harrison, that thing, retaliation was coming, and everybody knew it. So the coach got what he deserved for getting shoved by Ronnie Harrison. And the fact that, Nance and Romo, the mainstream media, is trying to put this all on the Browns, that's just another typical mainstream media BS where they don't look at the whole thing. They side with one. They only stick to one side of the tail and not the whole story. And that's one of the things that infuriates me about the media.
Yeah, they called unsportsmanlike conduct on Kansas City's bench, and they like completely brushed over that, right? And they just went straight to Ronnie Harrison, shoving the guy. I can't believe they continue to call it a punch. It was not a punch.
It was not a punch. Like, what if that's a punch? Oh, I don't even get me started.
Yeah, that was not a punch. But let's be honest here. Yes, their coach shoved our player, but Harrison can't react. You gotta be smarter than that. I know things get heated in the moment. The coach should have never put his hands on Harrison, but you can't react. You can't get kicked out of the game for something like that. Yes, their coach should have been kicked out too. I'm curious to see if that coach will get suspended or something. By the NFL. I'm sure he'll get a hefty fine at the very minimum.
And Harrison will too.
Right. Oh, for sure. I'm curious to see what the NFL will say about this on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever those types of things come out. I know they usually send out those reports with how much players get fined and that kind of stuff. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. But in that situation, Jack, as hard as it is, you can't react because you put your defense, who already didn't have Grant Delpit with them, in a terrible situation, and now you really only have John Johnson back there, as safety, and you put them in such a terrible spot that, like I said, I understand getting heated and being upset that you got shoved, but you can't retaliate. You just can't do it.
No, I understand. It even goes back to the Myles Garrett thing. And we all know how that happened.
Exactly.
And I don't blame Myles for retaliating in that moment because of what Mason Rudolph said, even though, it's never been proven because the tape disappeared. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, Ronnie shouldn't have done it. It did hurt the team. So hopefully, I'm sure he apologized to the team at halftime or whenever he got the opportunity to, because it did hurt. But yeah, Ronnie and John Johnson III out there would have been a lot better. So then you got forced into playing John Johnson and MJ Stewart, which, MJ Stewart, you made the team, but he's the fifth corner and the fifth safety in the secondary. So it's kind of he's the emergency guy when we really need him. And it's honestly hopefully, Ronnie comes back from this and helps us win. Obviously with Grant Delpit not being 100% yet, we need Ronnie Harrison out there. Will not shock me next week though. Javante Moffett gets called up off the practice squad. We might need some help back there, especially. So we'll see how it shakes out. Anthony, as we wrap up, we talked about the loss, everything. Week 1 in the NFL, it did not disappoint. There was some really good games. I watched Pittsburgh Buffalo before Cleveland Kansas City. That was a hell of a game. I think a lot of people ruled out Pittsburgh, but their defense really proved that they're going to be a tough team still in 2021.
Yeah, they can thank Brian Dable for that game.
That was Buffalo's offense was very interesting today, and I don't understand what happened because
not interesting in a good way, interesting in a very bad way.
Yeah, they just their lack of a running game is, I think, and I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, but their lack of a running game really concerns me because you force Josh Allen essentially to be one dimension. Now, granted, Singletary averaged 6.5 yards per carry today on 11 carries, so he was effective, but I wanted them to pick up a running back so bad because I thought that was what was really missing offensively. And then you force Josh Allen to run the ball and take even more hits. You just paid him $250 million to be your franchise quarterback. You can't let him run around like that and expect him to take all the punishment when it comes to running the football.
Jack, we've seen a lot of bad football, right? We've seen a lot of terrible play calls. That fourth down play that they ran, that throwback to the running back thing about 5 yards behind line of scrimmage, that might be the worst play call I have ever seen, and that would certainly be saying something with what we have seen as Browns fans.
Well, I mean, Brian Dable was our offensive coordinator 10, 12 years ago, so I mean, we have seen it before, so honestly, it's not a surprise.
I mean, I that play was certainly something. I have no words for that one.
It certainly was.
That is like Freddie Kitchens' fourth down draw bad. That
I
think that is even worse. Like that draw actually went forward. That pass went for handoff or whatever, extended handoff, whatever, went backwards. So I might give the nod to Freddie on that one.
Yeah, it's just we'll see how Buffalo shakes out, because I mean, you look at the other AFC matchup that was going on but during Cleveland, Kansas City, Miami and New England had a slugfest. I think 17-16 was the final in that one. Miami tops New England. The AFC East is going to be interesting, especially because Mac Jones looked pretty damn good in his first NFL start, and we all know New England's got a solid defense. Miami, Brian Flores is 3-2 against Belichick, and like the AFC East is going to be pretty interesting, especially if Buffalo's offensive woes continue, and I don't think it will. I think it's just an overreaction from week one.
Yeah, just as we all predicted, the Dolphins are leading the East after 1 week.
Yes. Getting back to the AFC North, Cincinnati pulls out overtime win against Minnesota. Joe Burrow, his first game back after the ACL tear, looked pretty good. 20-27, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, Anthony, I think the stripes on the football got bigger for him because he caught a 50-yard touchdown from Burrow. So all the preseason woes that Jamar Chase had, they went away, and he had a pretty big impact in his first NFL start.
Did you see Burrow's comment? The first thing he said at the press conference today?
I did not.
He said, "Oh, I thought Chase couldn't catch the ball," or something to that effect. So.
Hey, whatever worked, whatever happened between the preseason and the regular season, it helped for Jamar Chase. So he's obviously back with his old quarterback, and if he continues to make plays like that, like he did in college, Cincinnati's not too far away. They obviously need to beef up that offensive line because Burrow went off the field limping at one point and shrugging his shoulder, like he had a shoulder injury. So they know, and we've been saying this since they drafted him, they have to improve that offensive line, or Burrow is going to get David Carr and Tim Couch syndrome before long. Yeah,
he's not going to last with how many times he got sacked today and how many times he got hit. It's just, he won't be in the NFL for long if that kind of punishment continues.
Yeah. Any more takeaways from week one before we get on out of here?
How about the Saints blowing out the Green Bay Packers? Jameis Winston 5 touchdown passes, Aaron Rodgers 0.
Yeah,
we all predicted that one.
No, yeah. Well, I think I actually predicted that the Saints were going to win, shockingly enough, over on the Top Dogs podcast when we made our weekly picks last week. I'm a Jameis believer. I drafted him as my backup in a couple fantasy leagues, and I figured being coached by Bruce Arians 1 year and then going to New Orleans to be coached by Sean Payton, I'm thinking it would have worked out some of the flaws in Jameis's game. It definitely showed today. The thing with Aaron Rodgers, Anthony, I wonder if inside the locker room, they may love Aaron Rodgers, but I have to wonder if they are getting ticked off by his willingness to just speak out on the situations between him and the front office to the media. He did it again on the Fox pregame with Aaron Andrews. like we all know Aaron Rodgers is probably leaving Green Bay after the 2021 season, but you would have to think that, and that's not taking away from New Orleans because they're still a really good football team, but you have to wonder if inside the locker room they're kind of getting fed up with this and the situation going on between Aaron and the front office.
Well, not only that, but like we talked about on in our NFC preview, their offensive line, very inexperienced, not having Bakhtiari for of the first 5-6 weeks since he's on a PUP list, coming back from his injury. That certainly could blow up very quickly, and who knows, maybe it would be in the best interest for them to move on before the end of the season. Washington might need a quarterback, and they're certainly a team that I don't know what their cap situation is to kind of acquire that, but that's certainly a situation where if they have good quarterback play there, they can really make some noise. And we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up because Ryan Fitzpatrick does have a hip injury. They're saying it's a major hip injury. They said they're fine with Taylor Heineke. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. What was it?
This is a monumental thing because I actually had the right pronunciation for once. You know how terrible I am with things.
That's astonishing.
It's Heineke.
Heineke. Okay. But somebody brought this up. I think it was Florio on the NBC pregame. Cam Newton, he was with Ron Rivera all them years in Carolina. He's still looking for a job. I mean, there could be a possibility Cam Newton signs with the Washington football team.
Yeah, I can see it. I don't know what else is out there quarterback wise, but that would certainly be an interesting fit, especially if they're kind of going to run the same style of the stuff they did in Carolina, with Ron Rivera. So I think that's certainly something that's certainly a possibility over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, without question. I mean, Scott Turner's the offensive coordinator there. He was there in Carolina with his dad Norv when he was running the offense for Ron Rivera in Carolina. So would be an interesting development if Cam ends up going there, but they said they're going to roll with Heineke for the time being. As we wrap things up, I'm on vacation this coming week, so any new episodes of the podcast will be without me. I will be back next Sunday with Anthony, hopefully. I think that's the plan. We'll recap Browns-Texans. Anthony, as we get on out of here, go ahead and plug your Twitter, and we'll get on out.
Yeah, I think I'll be at the game next week, so at some point after I get back, I'm sure we'll hop on and hopefully be talking about a Browns win. As for this week, I think tomorrow night is going to be me and Alex Hale.
Sweet.
So that should be a very fun podcast.
I'll enjoy it.
Shut up. I can't finish now with that comment. But yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter over at Anthony Joki. That's Joki.
And as for me, you guys can follow me on Twitter at JackMcCurry08 and follow the Dogland on Twitter at the Dogland. And if you've listened to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please drop us a review. Be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe wherever you get the podcast. We really appreciate it. And until next time, go Browns.